Hi, it's Nancy in Nancy's Pampered Kitchen, creating one of the recipes tonight that comes in the cookbook that comes with the multi-cooker that was introduced in spring of 2022. So this is a pressure cooker, tangy barbecue sauce rib recipe. And I'm just prepping this. This recipe actually calls for back ribs, but when smaller short ribs, side ribs are on sale, you take what you get, right? So the first thing that you want to do to make your ribs a little bit more tender is remove we call it the silver skin, the thin membrane on the back of the rib. So this would be the same on a back rib or these side ribs. They are the center cut portion of the side ribs, and hopefully you can just see how that pulls off. You also do this with tenderloin. That makes the meat, it helps the meat, you can see how it's just a really tough membrane. It helps the meat, for one thing, your meal will be a lot more tender, your meat will be a lot more tender, and it also helps the seasonings to get right into the meat because it's not going through that really kind of tough membrane that's on the ribs. So I've got that off. I've already done the other two. So it takes about 3 pounds of back ribs, and I've got about that of the side ribs. Just going to set that to the side. And I've mixed up a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the ribs. Very gentle. I'm going to do both sides. So I'm not using it all on the one side. I'll flip that over because I don't want to lose it on the mat. And then I'm going to cut these into a portion, smaller pieces. So I've left the meaty side up, I guess you could say. And then I'll just rub this seasoning right into the meat and I'll cut it up. Just get the rest of this on here. And I've got the multi-cooker sitting right here, so it's kind of blocked in your way of seeing the meat. But all you do is you cut them into whatever portion size you want. If you want them in singles or doubles, totally up to you. And I'll just rub that seasoning in a little bit. When on side ribs, sometimes it's a little trickier. Actually, any ribs, because the bones will go crooked. So I'm just going to cut these portions up. So what happens with this recipe, the ribs will cook once they come to pressure for about 30 to 35 minutes. The multi-cooker has, and if you have a quick cooker, you can do this meal with that as well. It has a beef and pork setting right on it. And that's the setting we're going to use. And what they get cooked in, oops, I didn't get all that. See, that's why you take that membrane off. I didn't get it all off of that one because that would make your supper really tough. So I'm just going to cut that piece off. You cook these in a cup of apple juice, which is kind of cool. And then you make a sauce, a barbecue sauce, right in the multi-cooker on sear after that. So I'm just going to wipe my hands, and all I'm going to do is put, because you need to have a cup of liquid when you're cooking in this pot. And then I'm going to just set all the ribs in that pot. And I'm going to do, it's not in the recipe, but we decided we wanted to have rice with this tonight. And so I've already got the rice prepped. It's draining right now. Whenever I cook rice well, actually, whenever I cook any kind of white rice, except arbor rice, I always rinse it first. So I've rinsed a cup of white rice. Excuse me. And I've got it in the ceramic pot. I'm just going to set this is the food rack. And as long as I can get that food rack to sit on the bottom, I can do the rice this way. So I'm just going to move this cutting board so you can see what I'm up to here. So I put the rice, a cup of rice with about a cup and a quarter of water in the ceramic pot. This pot fits in the air fryer, by the way. And I'm just going to put the silicone lid on top, which is tricky when it's already in the holder. And this holder lets you get this in and out of the pot quite easily. So I'm just going to slide this over a bit so that you can see it a little bit better. And then I'll just fold those racks down in. I'm going to turn the multi-cooker on. I've got a couple pieces of rice up there from before. That's a new feature on the multi-pot. You can turn it on and off, which is really quite nice. And I'm just going to turn the dial to beef and pork. You'll see it automatically comes up to 35 minutes, and that's the cook time. So I'm going to let this cook away, and there you go. It says run, and the dial will let me know when it's actually come to pressure and started to cook. So we'll be back for part 2. So these have cooked for 35 minutes and they've rested for 10, the natural steam release. I pressed cancel and I did the steam release. So I'm all ready to take this out now. And I'm gonna just set the lid on there. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take out the rice, and I'll just set it to the side because I want to leave and I'll move that over there. Whoopsie, I should have moved that first because it doesn't slide very well on this countertop. These are the silicone stacking trivets. If I look a little taller, it's because I have a step built into my, that pulls out from the kickstand. So that's the rice all ready to go. And next step, we're going to take these ribs out of here and you put them on a medium sheet pan. So this is actually a little bit smaller than that, but I think I can get them to fit. And then we're going to make our sauce. So while I'm doing this, it might have been easier to use a strainer actually. I might just try the spider strainer to see how that goes. And that's much easier. So there we go. I'm just going to put, you can tell how tender and juicy they are. Yes, they look pretty bland right now, but that's what that yummy sauce is for. Some of the bones actually, I cut them pretty small, so some of the bones actually have fallen right out. Now while I'm just finishing up this last little bit, I am going to turn this to sear. Whoops, wrong way. And I'm going to set it for 26 minutes, but I want it to be on medium. Whoopsie, sorry, I did that wrong. Looking backwards, I want it to be on medium. So I want to change the temperature from high, which I was searing meat before, to medium, because that's what we're going to do our sauce on. And once I get the last little bit of this bone out right now, I'm going to put to keep these nice and warm, I'm going to put the silicone lid on it just to keep those nice and hot. And then we're going to make our sauce. So to make the sauce, I've got that on sear and started to preheat. Just set this to the side. I need a half a cup of the liquid that came off the meat. So I'm just going to take this out and measure out a half cup in the easy read. And then the rest of that liquid I'm going to set over here. You could use that for stock if you wanted as a base for soup. Once you strained it through a strainer, you could do, yeah, that would work really well actually. It would make good pork stock. So now I'm going to get down off my perch, so to speak, back to normal Nancy size. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add in back that half cup of reserved liquid now that it's on sear. Might help if you start it. Press start. So I'm going to put that back in, and I'm going to add the half a cup of reserved liquid. And on top of that, I'm going to put in 60 mils or a quarter cup of apple juice. No, sorry, apple cider vinegar. The juice went in the top part. Got that one mixed up a little bit. I'm also going to put in 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. So this recipe actually comes with the multi-cooker, just so you know. Or you could probably find it online, I would guess. And I need a quarter cup of packed brown sugar. Just use the dry measures for that. And then I only had the one measuring cup, and I wanted to be able to pour that out. We need 1/3 of a cup of Worcestershire sauce. So I'll just put that in. And one last ingredient that I'm going to have to add in is some garlic powder, which I accidentally put away when I was done step 1. So I'm going to add in a half teaspoon of garlic powder. Going to bring this to boil right in here, and I'm going to thicken a little bit, and I'll be back on. So this is all seared or all boiled down. It worked really fast, about 13-14 minutes. So I'm just going to press cancel to stop that. Grab my mini oven mitts, my mini micro grips. We're going to put about half a cup of this sauce, and you'll see how it really did boil down. And I apologize, I'm a bit backwards here. So you're seeing the bottom of the inner pot. So I've got a full cup here of sauce. Some of it I will keep because as you know, I showed you we're making rice to go with this. And half a cup I'm going to brush on. Just set that back in here to keep it kind of out of the way. And I'll move this a wee bit. I'm going to brush on the meat. And then I'm going to put it under the broiler for about 5 to 6 minutes. I'll keep an eye on it until it caramelizes. So, whoopsie doodle, I'm using the chef's silicone brush. And I'm just going to put this on fairly thick. Just want to take that out of there because it's still hot in there. And I don't want it to burn that. Sorry about that. That's one thing, the multi-cooker, the base of it will keep the heat. So I poured the sauce into the Easy Read 1 cup, just from the standpoint of then I know kind of how much I've used. And I like having sauce on rice, so I'm going to keep a little bit of it. As I said, it says half a cup in the recipe, and then under the broiler for 5 to 6 minutes until this caramelizes. I'm just going to put a little bit more on this, and this is the metal sheet pan that I'm doing this on, the medium size, which came in the modular sheet pan set. So they're all ready to go in, and I'm going to just put them in here for about, as I said, 5 to 6 minutes. Then we'll pull them out, plate them up, and have our dinner. I'll show you the finished ones. So we're at the final stage. Just took these yummy looking ribs out of the oven. They definitely do look caramelized, that's for sure. And all I'm going to do now is I'll plate them up. So this was actually a pretty easy recipe to make. I've got a little salad, and here's the rice as I cooked it all at once. So we'll take a little bit of rice, plate it up, I could have fluffed it up sooner. We'll put it on the side a little bit. And remember I said I like sauce on my rice? Well, I kind of do, so I'm going to drizzle a bit of that. Hopefully Larry does too, because this is his plate. And then, and I should have kept my bigger chef's tongs out of the dishwasher. I'm just going to set some of these ribs on here. They actually smell divine. And then I'm going to drizzle a bit of sauce over top. So if you're looking for this recipe, it is pressure cooker ribs with tangy barbecue sauce. And I'll just dribble a little bit of that homemade sauce. This is a great one for me because I don't have to worry about gluten in the barbecue sauce either, because I made it. And there it is. Bon appetit. Thanks for watching.